Well, the president's not a racist. The president's not a racist. And I think the tone of all of this is not good for the country. But it's coming from all different ideological points of view. That's the point. To single out any segment of this, I think, is a mistake. There's been a lot of discussion.
McConnell was asked whether he considered the tweets racist, given that his wife, Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, migrated from Taiwan. He did not respond. Senate Majority Leader declined to say yes or no, just saying that he was a fan of legal immigration. And joining in on the debate over the tweets, the response, and now the resolution to condemn the president's comments are Alan Steinberg, columnist with Insider NJ. By the way, he also worked in the administration of Bush 43. And also here we have Kenneth Vecchio, Republican strategist and attorney. Thank you so much both for being here, gentlemen. All right, let's get right into it. We've got a lot of ground to cover. Alan, I want to start with you here because, listen, at the end of 2018, you wrote a column and it was entitled, "I served under President Bush. I left the GOP to vote Dem. Trump is a fascist and a danger to our republic." All right, so you think he's a fascist, but do you agree with Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy who say he's not a racist?
I think they're out of their minds. I think he is the most undoubted and certain racist that we've seen in the White House since Woodrow Wilson. I'll mention 5 things real quickly. Number one, his discrimination in the rental of apartments in Brooklyn. The Justice Department sued him. He was forced into a consent order in the early 1970s. Secondly, the birther movement, the most racist movement I've ever seen in terms of trying to typify Barack Obama, that he was not an American, that he didn't have a birth certificate. The Central Park Five, innocent men who were vindicated, and even after they were vindicated, he wanted the death penalty for them. The activities of Trump to disqualify Judge Curiel, one of the finest jurists in America, saying that because he's Hispanic, he couldn't hear his case. And finally, what he did to American Indians in terms of trying to keep them from having gambling licenses. When he went into those hearings and said, "They don't look like Indians to me." He is a vile racist, and that's why I left the Republican Party.
All right, Ken, I want to let you respond to this. And before you do, I'll ask the question that's being debated by people nationwide right now. And that is it racist to tell somebody who is accused of being anti-American that if you don't like it, leave?
I disagree completely on all 5 points that my colleague here stated, though they sounded like that they were rooted in good faith. I think he's either got his facts misconstrued or he's defining something that's racist that is not racist. It's a combination thereof. To answer your question squarely, no, there is nothing racist by him saying go back to your country, because Donald Trump is an equal opportunist insulter. He insults people whether they're white, whether they're black, whether they're fat, whether they're skinny, whether they're blonde, whether they're brunette, whether they're Hispanic, whether they're Chinese, whether they're Irish, whether they're English.
We should point out that despite his initial tweets, that 3 of the 4 congresswomen were actually born here, though.
Yeah, well, they're born here. But the point is, he said go back to where you came from. He didn't specify a country. So he could be telling Cortez to go back to the Bronx. He could be telling Tlaib to go back to Minnesota. If he's telling Omar to go back to Somalia, so what? He would say the same thing to a Danish person. He would say the same thing to a Portuguese person. That's the way that Donald Trump speaks. He speaks from the heart. He says things from his gut. He's not racist. There's nothing this guy's ever done that points to being racist. Now, this gentleman is definitely, more on the Republican side. However, the far left, when they have nothing substantive to argue, they call people racist. Why don't we stop talking about race? Why do we have to keep categorizing people by what their backgrounds are? Why can't we just talk about people as people and move on from this nonsense?
And actually, you talking about racism again, and the comment that you just made, I'd like to just very quickly bring in a soundbite by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. He's urging basically that everybody should really just dial back the rhetoric here, should take a step back. But that's not all he had to say. Listen.
We've seen the far left throw accusations of racism at everyone, anyone who disagrees with them on anything, including the Speaker of the House.
All right, so Alan, is there a double standard here? Are allegations of racism being hurled around a bit too cavalierly right now?
Not in the case of Donald Trump, because for years, leading journalists and authorities on New York politics knew that he was a racist. He was noted for that. I don't have my facts mixed up, Ken. I have studied Trump for years, including the works of Michael D'Antonio, the Pulitzer Prize winner, who wrote at length about Trump the racist. Let me say this. I've been victimized by the phrase, go back to where you came from, because I'm an American Jew. And that phrase was used for years when I was a kid It was said to Jews, like, go back to wherever you came from. It was used against every immigrant group. Donald Trump knows that. But there's a reason why he's coming out with all this racist rhetoric. I think racism is going to be the leading feature of his 2020 campaign, because if you look at the Washington Post poll, he's losing on every issue except for the economy. He will be losing soon on the economy because of the inverted yield curve, because of the trade wars. He will have no issue going for him. So in order to motivate his base, particularly white males, he will come out with the most off-the-wall racist rhetoric.
His base is not necessarily white males. There are a lot of white males that are part of his base. My wife is a white female, and she's part of his base. This entire talk about Donald Trump being racist is backwards. It's flipped. There's not one single comment that Donald Trump has made that is any way, shape, or form squarely on the issue of race. Every time, it's some kind of statement that he's made that could be applied in about 29 different directions, but somebody has to call it racist. There is nothing, even these 5 points you pointed, the Central Park 5, so what? Maybe he thought those people were really guilty, and maybe that's why he wanted to further. The birther analysis that you made, I'm a pretty logical guy who's the author of the best-selling criminal law books in the country and who's done a ton of research, and I come to the conclusion that, I don't know, maybe Barack Obama was born in the United States, maybe he wasn't. There was a lot of evidence on both sides.
We actually have to leave it right there, Alan. I would love to keep going, but
I do have
Alan
a response.
Steinberg, Alan Steinberg, Kenneth Vecchio, we thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
to discuss
Absolutely.
tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.